The issue of nudity, like so many others, can be addressed either in terms of ecclesiastical piety, using a language guarded by the virtue of modesty, or in terms of individualistic piety, which often slips into the convoluted language of prudishness. The fundamental question is, when and to what extent is nudity and its representations legitimate or illegitimate? One thing is abundantly clear and must be stated from the outset. Nudity is tempting regardless of the circumstances. Not only nudity itself, but also the narratives surrounding it, or even mere allusions to it, can be sources of temptation. Yet there are situations where nudity is indeed legitimate, and we are not referring here solely to the intimacy of marriage. Nudity is legitimate before the priest during baptism. Let us not forget that for a long time many of those baptized were adults. It is also legitimate before a physician in the context of certain medical examinations. The delicate question, however, concerns the legitimacy of representations of nudity. We know that cinema is replete with such images, and so are the visual arts. Thus, the decision about whether or not representations of nudity are legitimate directly impacts the entire realm of the arts. Here too the fundamental reference points are those provided by tradition. The Church Fathers speak plainly. They do not showcase what is shameful, but neither do they hide reality behind euphemisms. When it comes to images, there is no absolute prohibition against the representation of nudity. The old icons of theophany depict the Savior without garments, because that is how he was in the moment of his baptism. Moreover, theophany is the feast of the manifestation of the Lord, where it had to be made visible that the Son of God became the Son of Man in all things like us, except for sin. In cinema, however, the representation of nudity is not guided by the landmarks of church tradition, nor by the shared standards of decency. The only operative criterion is the intrinsic one of cinematic art. Cinema is not an icon. It is a mirror of humanity. Its potential for iconicity remains an open subject of inquiry. Nudity scenes in film, however, most often reflect the ordinary register of intimacy and sexuality, and frequently the distortions thereof. In this context, the question remains, to what extent are such representations legitimate?